It's like, it's
Because
just
you
one
need
person.
them. Like
Yeah.
Ramadan is really when unity, really comes in the most, because you want to make sure that someone has your back when you feel at your weakest point, when you want to, I would say go off of your discipline. So I would definitely understand why this would be a time where you would need your brothers and your sisters the most, and the fact that you can't be around them, I can definitely feel, how that void can be, something. So I wanted to make sure that I brought that up. I wanted to make sure that people knew, what was going on for real. But I wanted to also just get into it because it's been a crazy year thus far. You just got sworn in January, and it's in March you were hit with a boom, you know what I mean, to the point where you had to rearrange everything you already had set and what you had planned. So talk to me a little bit about, getting sworn in January, and then 60 days later, boom, now we're in this whole situation right now.
Oh wow, it's been for real. As we talking to different people and doing different, like I said, because our plan was actually be out on the street, talking,
Mm-hmm.
communicate with people. We had a field plan for that. We were working with Cheney, we were working with other places. So it's different now. The Act 77 was a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Act 77 is a new voting change, which allows us to vote by mail.
You said Act 77?
Yes, Act 77. That was
Act
signed
77.
into law by Governor Tom Wolf
Awesome.
Halloween last year. And man, the time could have been, so much better. You could vote from, the comfort and the safety of your own home.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a lot of outreach, for people in the comfort of their own home. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Definitely. And I appreciate you guys for actually, even seeing a void there and wanting to fill that void with, I would say the mail-in ballots. And I want to get a little deeper into that. So now that we're
Yes.
talking about the mail-in ballots, so your right to mail-in ballots, do you think that that is actually going to be a success for the city of Philadelphia, especially
Yes.
when we had low voter numbers coming in 2016?
Yes. I mean, well, see, here's the thing. So we was at about 40% in 2016. Now, I don't believe that number is going to be higher because we don't have a contested a presidential campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So at this time, you still had Sanders, you still had Hillary Clinton, so you still had, competition. But right now, Sanders is out. So it's
Yes.
only, Joe Biden.
That hurt a lot of
And,
millennials right there. Sanders dropping
it
out
hurt,
there.
right. So it hurt a lot of millennials. And so what we're seeing, a lot of people are just going to fall back. A lot of
Yes.
people aren't, going to do it. And, in the midst of this pandemic as well, that's going to hurt as well. A lot of people are preoccupied with a few things.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're
Fear.
seeing the COVID-19 affect the Black and brown communities different than it's affecting everybody else,
Yes.
a lot of people aren't really, concerned about it. But I do think that, it's going to allow people to express their vote that normally wouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
We had 70,000 people already uh, that applied for the mail-in ballot, which is still, relatively low.
Yeah.
But, we still got until May 26th. We got some radio commercials coming out. We got things coming out. So that number can swell up, overnight. And as we start to see more applications come in, as you see more people, we might get that number. But the number
Mm-hmm.
would be 400,000 people voting. That would be more than what we had in 2016. We'll see. But again, I just want to be clear, the polling locations is not going to be like the way how we were voting previously.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be under 200 polling locations
Mm.
across our city. Normally we have
Versus.
800, right, for
Wow.
the whole entire city. So
Wow.
normally we have 831 polling locations. We want to have less than 200.
Wow.
So, you're not going to be able to vote at your normal polling location.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're telling everybody, go ahead, vote by mail. The age of the average voter is over 60, and the age of the average election worker is over 60.
Mm.
So you don't want to put too many people at risk. As you know, there were a lot of election facilities that were in nursing homes, that were in fire departments. And, with the pandemic, we can't fit those phone locations in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're asking people to vote by mail. We're asking you to go to Vote PA and you can do it right now as we're speaking. Actually, you can go to
You can
votespa.com.
vote right now.
You can do it right now. I mean, you could apply for your ballot, and then after you finish applying, our office is going to mail you the mail-in ballot. And when you receive the mail-in ballot, uh, all you have to do is just fill it out. We're paying for the postage.
Mm-hmm.
Mail it back to us, and you vote it.
No doubt. And you just went over a lot, and I want to break some of those points down that you
Yeah,
said.
break it down.
And
That's fine. That's fine.
and I first want to go back to the whole pandemic situation and how it's changing and affecting our communities. Do you
Right.
think that this will actually, because I feel like with this pandemic, it brought a lot of fear. It brought a lot of fear to our communities. Do you think that it will bring fear as far as voting? Because we already had a lot of conspiracy theories. We already had, a lot of different stories going around as to why we shouldn't be voting. So do you think that this is going to bring even more of a fear inside of our communities?
Yes, I mean, there's always the conspiracy theories, but the conspiracy theories are not just happening, by osmosis. There are people that are actually paying money to support that vote, so they're giving out misinformation.
People who
They're
had
making
time before
fake,
this time.
yes, they're making fake Facebook profiles and giving out misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's people that you may even think that you're following on Facebook that's giving out information and you're following them, that they're actually fake Facebook profiles,
Mm-hmm.
and and they're sending out misinformation, and they're actually targeting young and black and brown millennials to give them misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the misinformations that they're sending out is that felons can't vote.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying, okay, your felons can't vote, felons can't vote, felons can't vote. Yes, that is true in some states, felons can't vote.
Mm-hmm.
But it's irresponsible to say that felons just can't vote. In Pennsylvania, felons can vote.
Can vote.
And as we're seeing, there's a lot of legislation change across the country which are allowing felons to participate in the process. So if you live in Pennsylvania, you live in Philadelphia, if you're a felon and you're out of confinement, you can vote. If you are incarcerated and you have not been convicted of a felon,
Mm-hmm.
then you can still vote. You can vote in jail. You can do your vote by mail in jail. Red lines.
And speaking of jails, we could definitely get into that conversation, but that's a whole nother topic. But
Right.
I want to definitely get into this comment that we got in the live real quick. Thank you guys
Sure.
for posing your questions. If you do have any
Thank you.
questions, please ask your questions right now. This is the time to do so. So she was pretty much saying, do you get confirmation once you send in that mail-in ballot? Do you make sure, or do you guys send out some type of confirmation to know that our vote got counted?
Well, yeah. So when you apply when you go to votespa.com and you apply, within a couple of minutes you receive a confirmation number.
Awesome.
So you have that number. It's emailed to you and stored. So you always can follow up on it, and you always think come back and then check to see whether or not your vote has been counted. And when you
Mm-hmm.
receive your ballot, you also have a confirmation number, and then that number you always can check back, call the county commissioner's office and follow up.
Yes. And just to piggyback on what you were saying about the fear, I definitely feel like it's going to be a lot as far as the millennial vote that either Joe Biden or Donald Trump is going to have to do to really get that vote. Because I actually was listening to Vaughn. I can't believe he's drawn a blank, but I was listening to one of the commentators on CNN, and he was pretty much saying that at first we were calling Bernie Sanders crazy, for all of his ideas as far as, lifting minimum wage to a living wage of $15, to having, free universal health care, child care, all of these things. And as soon as the pandemic hit, you know what I mean, we understood why all of these things is a need, you know what I mean? It's a necessity. So the fact that he dropped out of the race and he was the only one pushing those things, I really think it's gonna push a lot of projection, even more of a projection of fear onto our voters as far as the population of millennials, because of that mindset that we would have, because we were looking forward to what people were calling crazy thoughts or crazy ideas that Bernie Sanders had. But I wanted to ask you as well, when it comes down to this mail-in ballot, as a city commissioner, what struggles do you see that will roll out with this mail-in ballot? Do you see any struggles rolling out with it?
Well, when the legislator passed this law, they didn't attach any funding with outreach and advertisement of it. So again, there is some miscommunications out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the challenges that we will see is that people will want to wait to the last minute to apply, and that's going to be an issue because we're not accepting postmarks. So that means on June the 2nd, that's election day,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to actually need a physical completed ballot by June the 2nd at 8 p.m. I have
Mm-hmm.
to have it in my hand. We're not taking postmarks. So if you on June the 2nd, you might have seen your ballot on the table and you've been procrastinating. And you say, "Oh man, I got election day,"
Mm-hmm.
and then you try to, do your vote. You're not going to be able to. We're not going to be able to receive the mail. And so you may put it in the mail. You might say, "Okay, well, where's my ballot at?" You're going to miss the deadline.
Yes.
So
So the
that's one
biggest,
of the things that right.
so you see that one of the biggest struggles is the fact that people are going to wait too late to mail the ballot back.
That's one of my concerns.
Okay.
Because a lot of times people, they hear June 2nd, they hear June 2nd. So a lot of times we procrastinate, and we shouldn't procrastinate.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you get that official, mail-in ballot, it's going to be in a blue and white envelope. It's going to look nice. As soon as you get it, fill it out. I received mine yesterday in the mail. I got in the house about 11 o'clock. I went on ahead and I filled it out. But I put it in the mail like tomorrow. I didn't
Awesome.
want to sit around.
And we don't got to pay for the
Yeah.
stamp, right?
Oh, we got free postage.
I just had you to put that out there. People love
We
free
got free
stuff.
postage.
People love free stuff. You gotta tell them that's an incentive. When you tell them it's free, they, what I'm saying, they go run towards it. But I had to ask you
Yes.
too because this year is also, the year of the census, the 2020 census, and the census is doing it the same way. They're rolling this, census, I would say, polling out during the pandemic, and they're not getting as much, feedback as they would have hoped they would have prior to the whole pandemic hitting. So do you think that you will run into any similarities which the census is hitting right now as far as this mail-in ballot too?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing we're noticing is that everything is moving slow. No matter what you was doing, the food supply chain, this pandemic is affecting everyone, everything moving
Mm-hmm.
in this country. So I mean, yeah, but again, like I say, people sometimes they wait till the last minute. I do see that, but the one thing that does concern me is that what we're seeing in the black and brown areas, we're seeing large disparities.
Mm-hmm.
And by large disparities, I mean, I'll just go over a couple of numbers with you. Your typical ward, uh, we're broken down into 66 wards. That's kind of like, that's like zip codes for political language, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Philadelphia has 66, different areas, voting areas.
Yes.
And the areas that we see in the center city versus, West Philadelphia, like Overbrook and Winfield, we seeing them apply for the mail-in ballots maybe 6 times greater than what's happening in neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an issue because if there's a decision about what area gets supplies, gloves or hand sanitizer, anything,
Mm-hmm.
those policymakers look at those numbers and then they decide who get the resources. And sad as it is, your ballot participation can determine whether or not your playground is going to get fixed or whether your school is going to get funded. Whether or not, during this pandemic, who gets testing supplies,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody right now is making the decisions. It's not the doctors, it's not the business people, it's elected officials that's making decisions on people's lives right now. And
Exactly.
so,
And Commissioner, we actually got a little ahead of ourselves because I just actually got a question on Twitter and I was like, damn, that's my fault. I didn't even actually ask you this question. So in June, what are the people actually voting for? Some people are not even informed on what they're
okay.
voting for currently at this time.
Okay, so right now it's the primary. Okay, so there's 2 elections coming up. So there's an election every 6 months. So in this election, you're going to vote for your president. You're going to vote for the attorney general. You're going to vote for your state senators. You're going to vote for your state representatives.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also going to vote for your delegates. And you're also going to have 2 ballot questions that's on the ballot. So every election, there's always a question, ballot question. And this ballot question sometimes always they ask you whether or not the city should get money